When a smug corporate outsider tries to destroy your life work in 5 seconds flat, they usually expect tears or begging, but they rarely expect a hidden legal trapdoor. That exact morning, a 20-something relative of our CEO strutted into my office, handed me a termination notice, and demanded I surrender my security badge before I could even finish logging into my computer. She was riding a high of unearned privilege, completely oblivious to the fact that she had just triggered a ticking time bomb built straight into the company foundation. My name is Arthur, and I had spent 30 years quietly laying the legal groundwork for this entire corporate empire. When the original owner was running the business out of a cramped garage, I was the one who handled compliance, organized the chaos, and insisted on taking company stock instead of flashy bonuses. Over 3 decades of quiet deals and strategic buyouts, I had accumulated 72% of the overall voting shares, securing total ownership while keeping my name off the glossy promotional brochures and public websites. The CEO had recently appointed his daughter-in-law, a fresh business graduate named Chloe, as chief strategy officer despite her having zero real experience. Armed with a pristine resume, a brand new company laptop, and a massive ego, she decided her very first executive power move would be firing the quiet veteran who sat in the largest corner office. What she failed to realize was that her title was purely ceremonial, and she possessed absolutely no actual equity or independent firing authority under our corporate charter. I did not bother arguing with Chloe or explaining her massive mistake while she smirked behind her desk. Instead, I calmly packed my personal desk items, handed over my building access badge, and instructed the trembling human resources representative to inform the CEO that our upcoming emergency board meeting was going to be extremely brief. Within 30 minutes of walking out the front doors, I activated a specialized legal provision known as Clause 17C, delivering notarized copies directly to every major shareholder. Clause 17C was an emergency safeguard I had drafted decades ago to protect the business from reckless family interference. The rule stated that if any non-equity executive attempted to fire a senior corporate officer without a formal board vote, all executive authority across the entire company would immediately freeze, and full operational control would revert directly to the majority shareholder. While Chloe was busy pouring celebratory champagne in my former office and drafting proud social media updates, my legal team was already halting all her system access. The CEO was halfway through a morning round of golf when his primary attorney called him in a state of absolute panic. He rushed back to corporate headquarters in record time, only to be met by terrified board members and a massive stack of certified legal filings. When his legal team explained that his daughter-in-law had unilaterally fired the 72% owner and triggered an irreversible voting override, the aging patriarch collapsed into his leather armchair, realizing his family empire had just suffered a self-inflicted fatal blow. By early afternoon, Chloe was still strutting through the executive hallways, completely unaware that her corporate email, expense accounts, and internal system privileges had been administrative grayed out. She attempted to log into the main financial dashboard to view company metrics, but the system repeatedly rejected her credentials as an unauthorized user. When she noticed the silent tension in the building and the sudden lack of polite replies from board members, a deep sense of dread finally began to creep into her mind. The emergency board meeting convened precisely 3 hours after my abrupt morning termination. When Chloe walked into the conference room expecting a routine briefing, the board chairman coldly informed her that her temporary position had been officially suspended and directed her to sit in the back row as a silent observer. Pale and trembling, she watched as an empty leather chair, at the head of the long wooden table, was carefully prepared for the very person she had tried to erase just hours earlier. I entered the boardroom at exactly 3 o'clock, wearing my standard charcoal suit and holding a thick leather folder containing our official corporate registry. I did not sit down, Nor did I raise my voice as I presented the formal documentation proving my absolute majority control over every pending company decision. I immediately called for a binding vote to nullify every unauthorized executive decision made over the previous 2 days, completely stripping Chloe of her short lived title in front of the entire terrified board. The room remained in dead silence as the corporate attorneys confirmed that my ownership stake made the motion legally absolute and completely unchallengeable. Chloe sat frozen in her seat, her face drained of all color as she finally grasped that the quiet employee she had treated like disposable staff was actually the master owner of the entire enterprise. The CEO tried to offer a stuttered apology on behalf of his family, but I simply stood at the head of the table, letting the weight of reality settle over the room. After the remaining board members filed out of the room in total silence, the defeated CEO begged for a private conversation to discuss our future options. I placed two distinct legal documents on the table, offering him a choice between a complete executive reorganization under my direct control or a total corporate buyout where I would sell my entire stake at 10 times its current market valuation. He stared at the papers with hollow eyes, finally realizing that decades of treating the business like a personal playground had finally caught up to him. Early the following morning, a company-wide email announced that the original founder was officially stepping down from his role to focus on personal matters. Chloe's brand new office was completely cleared out by noon, her short tenure erased as if it had never happened in the first place. I chose to accept the buyout offer, signing the final paperwork from my home office, and walking away with absolute financial freedom, leaving them with a hollow title while I took the true value I had spent a lifetime building.